Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Hiba from My Little Journal, and if you are new here, welcome to my little crafty corner. So today I'm going to be working in my Scrappy Spiral notebook. I decided to do a quick flip through for you to see how it's coming together, but I am pretty caught up. I am working on my spreads for March, and one of my big layouts for March is going to be this trip that I took to Chicago with my members, the Peaches. We got to go to the Chicago Stationery Fest. We had a blast, and I really wanted to use 2 pages for this fun trip. Now, I had so many photos for this trip, and I'm gonna try to add as many as possible to these 2 spreads. And you'll see in a little bit, at some point I decide to add some pattern paper where I can add more photos. But for now, I'm kind of focusing on my larger photos and filling in these boxes. Now, I also am documenting this trip in my travel journal, which I am sharing the process layouts with my members. So if you're interested in watching those, you just have to join my members. And I'll probably do a flip through when I'm done for my YouTube channel so you don't miss out on all of it. But anyways, for now, I'm going to go ahead and stick down my photos, and I decide to use that sidebar to hold my title. And I'm keeping it basic. I'm just going to stamp out Chicago. I'm using an old Studio Calico. I believe this is the Tucker Alpha to spell out Chicago. And I'll use the Tucker Filler Alpha to color in my title. I decided to go with orange because I'm focusing on the peaches, and peaches are orange. So I thought I'm gonna just stick to orange. It gives a nice pop of color, even though I'm not a fan of orange, but I think it fits really well with this spread. Now you'll notice when I stamp Chicago, I have a nice big gap at the top, and I'm thinking the whole time, what am I going to do with that gap? I thought maybe I would just add embellishments or something, but I decide against it, and I decide to stamp. I have so many travel stamps that I don't get to use because I'm not like a huge traveler. So I go through my travel stamps. I end up finding a very cute stamp from Studio Calico, and I fill in that gap with that stamp. I think the stamp said, "Remember these good times." There's even a little spot I can fill it out. So I end up stamping a geotag in orange to complete this little column. While I'm doing that and stamping, let me talk a little bit about my photos. So like I said, I got to meet up with the Peaches in Chicago for Chicago Stationery Fest. We had such a good time. You can see here that we have a lot of group photos. We got to spend a lot of time together. We went sightseeing one day. We spent 2 days at the fest. Even though as members, we Zoom every other week together, we craft, we know each other pretty well, but it's just different when you see someone in person. It just, I don't know, the connection is totally different when you see someone in person than when you're on Zoom or FaceTime. So it was a lovely time. We had a great time together, and I can't wait for our next trip. But anyways, let's move on. I want to fill in the boxes with some embellishments. I have a lot of die cut packs from Feed Your Craft / In a Creative Bubble. I barely use these. Like I said, I don't travel much. So I decided to pull them out and see what I got in these fun little die cut packs. I found this beautiful, enjoyed the journey. It just filled in that gap perfectly. I love this little, I think it was like a little box that said Travelog, if I'm not mistaken, but it was a little bit too big. So I just trimmed it down to fit in between my photos. I love this Discover. I also knew I wanted to add something in between our little where I stand photo, but nothing really fits. And so I decide I'll just stamp something. So basically, I'm just filling in the little gaps. I'm trying to add some color with my die cuts. And once I got enough die cuts on my page, I go ahead and stick those down. And we can grab my stamps and fill in the white space on some of these photos. I like to fill in the white space on my photos sometimes with stamping. It keeps things flat and it just, I don't know, adds a little something to your photos. So once I'm done sticking down my embellishments, I'm going to look through my travel stamps and fill in those spots as well. So I found a few travel stamp sets that would work really well on my spread. One of the stamps that I end up using says "So cool." I end up stamping that on one of my 2x2 photos. I also found sightseeing and I stamped that directly on my die cut. But my favorite was this VIP Very Important Peach stamp that I created for my peaches. I actually gifted the stamp set to my members when we were in Chicago. I'm going to use that to stamp directly on my photo here, the Where I Stand photo with my members. I thought it was a nice little add-on. Now, this is where I decide I need more space to add more photos. I have so many photos that I want to add, but I don't want to add big photos and take up a lot of pages. So my go-to is to go through my traveler's notebooks and my pattern paper. And I have this old Studio Calico traveler's notebook, and it's all about travel. So I went through it and I found a few pattern paper that would work for me to add more photos. You guys know me, if you've been watching me for a while, you know I love to print smaller photos and add them within my pages. And if I find a pattern where I can add more photos, I go for it. And the strip of film was perfect for that. I could use it to add extra photos. So I ended up printing a bunch of tiny, tiny photos to fit into this film strip pattern paper. I made sure to print enough, but not too many that it gets too busy. I knew I wanted to stamp as well and maybe add some stickers if I can. So I didn't print where they fit every single box. I just printed a few or enough to kind of capture the trip, but also have some space for extra, if that makes sense. So I'm going to go ahead and stick down my tiny photos, and then I'm going to grab some of my stamps. I end up using mostly my Everyday Explorers Chicago stamp. It's such a cute stamp set. I got to pick that up from Christine at the Chicago Stationery Fest. One of the stamps had a bean, so I added that right next to our bean photo, and also just stamp like Hello Chicago and things like that. I'll also grab my little envelope of stickers. So while working on my Chicago journal, I'm keeping everything together. And so I have this envelope of stickers, like Chicago stickers, that I thought maybe I could find something to fill in the little gaps. And I found plenty, especially from Helen's sticker sheet, which is the Coffee Monster Co. She had created like exclusive stickers for Chicago Stationery Fest, and I found a few that I was able to kind of fill in the little gaps and add some color to this beautiful page. I'm so happy that I ended up doing this because I really wanted to add more photos, but I didn't want to take up the space, if that makes sense. Just adding an extra page, it will give me space to journal, and it will also give me space to add more photos. Anyways, I am done with this side of my spread. I'm just going to color in some of the stamping. And then the opposite side, I purposely chose a page where I could add journaling. So I'm going to punch out my holes first for this page, and then I'm going to add the journaling. Now, this is my favorite way to add extra pages to my Scrappy Spiral notebook. Use my cinch machine, and I cut through the holes to use it as like disc bound. So basically, it's easier for me to add these pages. And also, I wanted to say that last year I used a lot of cardstock pattern paper in my Scrappy Spiral notebook. And by the end of the year, my Scrappy Spiral notebook was humongous. So this year I'm trying really hard to use my traveler's notebooks pattern paper because it's thinner and it won't add as much bulk. So that's why I decided to go through my traveler's notebooks first before using like cardstock, heavy duty pattern paper, if that makes sense. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and punch out my holes using the cinch machine. By the way, there's so many tutorials on how to use the cinch machine. So if you're not familiar with that, definitely take a look here on YouTube. That's how I learned to use the cinch machine. But once I punch out my holes, you'll see here, I'm gonna grab my tiny scissors and just cut through the holes. That way it makes it easier to add these pages to my spirals. And once I'm done and I add my new page to the spirals, I'm going to print my journaling and add the journaling to the opposite page. Like I said, this is a great way to add extra photos and journaling without taking a lot of space on your original pages. So I really like doing this, and it's just a fun way to use your papers as well. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and add my journaling and basically call my layout done. Don't forget, I will be adding all the links for everything I shared and used down in the description box for you. I hope you enjoyed watching my process video. And if you did, please give me a thumbs up. And if you are new to my channel, please consider subscribing. And I hope to see you guys very soon. Bye.